Hello students, welcome to Standard 8 Chemistry. So let's begin with the chapter States of Matter and Kinetic Model. States of matter, there are three states: solid, liquid, gas, and the properties of all the three states already taught in the class. So now next we'll move to the kinetic model or the kinetic theory, which is very important part of this chapter. So before going to the kinetic model or kinetic theory, let me make it very clear regarding what do you mean by kinetic. Kinetic theory visualizes that any substance, whether solid, liquid or gas, is made up of particles that may be atoms, molecules or ions, which are in constant motion, is called kinetic theory of matter. Now, how will you explain solid, liquid and gas according to kinetic theory? So, when you are explaining according to the kinetic theory, you have to be very clear regarding their arrangement of molecules in solid, liquid and gas. So, in your textbook it is given in paragraphs that you have to write in points, as how here it is written. Explanation of solid on the basis of kinetic model. Number 1, in solid the molecules are closely packed. The intermolecular space is negligible. Second point, the molecules vibrate at mean fixed positions. The molecules are arranged in a definite manner. And there is a strong force of attraction between the molecules or between the particles. So, as the intermolecular space is less, so there is strong force of attraction between the particles or the molecules in solid. As a result, solid has a crystalline structure with both definite size and definite shape. Now next we'll move to the explanation of liquid according to kinetic theory or kinetic model. So in liquid the molecules lie further apart. The intermolecular space between the molecule is greater than that in a solid. As the molecules are far apart, the intermolecular force of attraction between the molecule is not strong enough to keep them in fixed position. The motion of the molecules is irregular and random. The next, explanation of gaseous state according to kinetic model. Now in gaseous state, the molecules lie much further apart than they do in a solid or a liquid. The force of attraction between the molecule is negligible. So they are very free to move within the entire space available to them. The molecules move much faster and therefore they possess much more kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is the energy possessed by virtue of its motion. Gas exerts pressure due to continuous bombardment by its molecules on the walls of the container. So you may get a reasoning question, why gas exerts pressure? It is due to the continuous bombardment by its molecules on the walls of the container. Now next phenomenon we are coming across, that is interconversion of matter into different states. So interconversion of matter, what do you mean by interconversion of matter? It is defined as the phenomenon of change of matter from one state to another state and back to original state. So the conditions which are responsible or that bring about the change in the matter, that bring about the interconversion of matter, are the two conditions: temperature and pressure. Now you see in this diagram solid, liquid, gas. Now when you go through the two states of matter, solid and liquid, there are two terms to be remembered. The conversion from solid to liquid upon heating, we call it as melting. The conversion from liquid to solid upon cooling is freezing. So again, liquid and gas, in between the two states of matter, the conversion from liquid to gas upon heating is called vaporization, and the conversion from gas to liquid upon cooling is called condensation, or you can say liquefaction. In between these two states, the conversion from solid to gas upon heating without changing to its liquid state is called as sublimation, and the gas or the vapors which are formed after the sublimation upon cooling gives back the particles of solid, we call it as deposition. So, here are the definitions to be written. Now, what do you mean by melting or fusion? The process of change of a solid into its liquid. So, always you have to begin the definition as the process, or if it is phenomenon, you have to begin as the phenomenon. So, it is the process of change of a solid into its liquid at a particular temperature is called melting, and melting point you have to mention the constant temperature. This is very important, because melting point is defined as the constant temperature at which a solid becomes liquid by absorbing heat energy. Freezing, the process of change of matter from liquid to solid state at a particular temperature is called freezing, and the freezing point is defined as the constant temperature at which liquid changes into solid by giving out heat energy is called freezing point of that liquid. Now, next, evaporation is also known as vaporization. It is defined as the process of conversion of a substance from the liquid state to its vapor state at any temperature below its boiling point. We call it as evaporation. Now, state the three factors on which evaporation depends. Evaporation depends on temperature, speed of wind, and the surface area. So, rate of evaporation increases with increase of temperature, increases with increase of wind speed, increases with increase of surface area. Now, next, the difference between gas and vapor, how you have to present the point. Gas is a substance which under ordinary conditions is gaseous state. Ordinary condition means at room temperature it is in gaseous state. For example, oxygen, nitrogen, chlorine, these are all in gaseous state. Vapor, a substance which under normal or ordinary condition is a solid or a liquid, but under specific condition it is gaseous. For example, vapors of sulfur, water vapor, vapors of alcohol are the examples of vapor. Next, boiling. It is a process of change of a liquid into a vapor at a particular temperature from all parts of the liquid. We call it as boiling. And the boiling point is defined as the constant temperature at which liquid changes to vapor under normal atmospheric pressure is called boiling point. Next, what is sublimation? The process due to which solid directly changes into gaseous state on heating without changing into liquid state, and again the gaseous state on cooling directly changes to solid state is called sublimation. So, during sublimation, what happens when the solid directly changes to gaseous form, we call it as sublime, and again upon cooling it changes to solid state, we call it as sublimate. Name the solids that sublime on heating. What are the examples of solid? Ammonium chloride, iodine, solid carbon dioxide, naphthalene or the mothballs, camphor. Then next, for observation question, there is an experiment based on sublimation, that is on page 15, figure 1.6 is very important. You go through that experiment based on sublimation, and there from that experiment one observation question is there. What happens if ammonium chloride crystals heated in dry hard glass test tube? So the observation is dense white fumes are formed which on cooling forms white powdery deposit. Next, interconversion of matter is already taught, and state the applications or the uses of interconversion of matter. This is also very important question. Answers you will get in points, that is on page 16 of your textbook. The most important part of the chapter, next important part of the chapter is the law of conservation of mass. Now, what do you mean by law of conservation of mass? The law states that mass can neither be created nor be destroyed in a chemical reaction. Now, to verify this law, so there is an experiment. So that I'll be explaining the experiment, and you please write down that experiment in your notebook according to the pattern which I'll be giving very shortly. Now, here is a conical flask. Now, in the conical flask, inside the conical flask, you will take a chemical silver nitrate solution, and a test tube is being introduced inside the conical flask, and this ignition test tube contains concentrated hydrochloric acid, and the flask is closed with the help of a cork, and the cork it is very helpful because the test tube is being suspended inside the conical flask with the help of this cork. Now, this is the whole apparatus, and you have to weigh the apparatus before the chemical reaction, weigh it with the help of a physical balance, and then record the mass. Then slightly you have to tilt the conical flask, you have to tilt it such that concentrated hydrochloric acid comes in contact with silver nitrate solution. So, contact is one of the most important condition for the chemical reaction to occur. So, when silver nitrate solution reacts with concentrated hydrochloric acid, silver chloride, which is a white curdy precipitate of silver chloride and nitric acid, are formed. So, these two are the reactants and these two are the products. So, after the chemical reaction, you have to weigh the apparatus again. There will be no change in the mass. So, this shows that law of conservation of mass is verified. The mass of the reactants, that is before the chemical reaction, and the mass after the chemical reaction remains the same. So, here law of conservation of mass is verified, and the law of conservation of mass led to the discovery of another law that is called as law of constant proportions, which you will read in higher class. Complete the question answers given at the back in your exercise 1 to 7. If any doubts are there, any queries or doubts, keep it for me. And theme assignment also on page 20 it is given, you complete and write in your chemistry notebook. And the another running note you must be having, children. Whatever notes I have given, better you note down in your running note, and only the question answers or the exercise work in your chemistry notebook. Whatever doubts, you keep it for me. Thank you.